Devon Larratt versus Oleg Petrenko is coming up this Saturday at East versus West. So just in a few days now, it's going to be for the #1 spot in the world at 105 kilos. And I do think that Devon is probably going to win this match. And it's mostly because of a stylistic reason. I think that looking at Devon Larratt versus Andrei Pushkar is going to give us a lot of insight as to how this match will probably look. Because obviously Oleg was Andrei's student for a while. He's going to have a pretty similar style. And I think from what we've seen, he does have that similar style to Andrei. And something that Andrei did, obviously he's incredibly strong, but he holds on to his opponents a lot. He uses a lot of down and side pressure immediately off the go. So looking at this very first round one, go against Devon Larratt, we see Andrei hit to the side, and immediately he is containing, he's holding on to Devon, he is able to get his wrist bent, and he's able to go over the top of Devon and secure this victory in round one, although Devon does have the buckle. But almost immediately, and we're going to see a slip here first, Devon is going outside. And you can see even outside of straps, Andrei is always initiating, he's going down. So in other words, the height of his hand is dropping almost immediately. Devon's hand height, at least the direction that he's attempting to go, is up and back. He's trying to escape. He's trying to get out the back and force Andrei to hold on to him. And Andrei is holding on to Devon, even outside of straps. You can see his wrist going back there. And as soon as we get in straps, it's going to be the exact same thing. We're going to see, as soon as the go happens, notice how the height of Andrei's hand drops. And this isn't because Devon is forcing him there, but Andrei is intentionally going downward almost immediately. And you can see that because of that, he's giving Devon access to attack his fingertips. Andrei is having to hold on to Devon here. His wrist flexion is going to have to hold up in order for him to access his side pressure. So if this match just went into a hook right off the go, I think that Andrei easily could have pinned Devon. But the issue is that Andrei's fingertips are not as strong as his side pressure and down pressure. And this is going to be the case with pretty much everyone. The idea that your fingertips will match the strength of your overall body is just not very realistic. So as soon as Andrei starts going down, he just loses all of his power. And this time Devon is on the non-buckle side, so he has a little bit of an advantage there. But you can see just the direction Andrei's pulling on. He's not pushing his elbow forward and rocking back and trying to go up and over the top of Devon, but he's trying to go straight down and to the side and a little bit back. And this is gifting Devon a perfect direction to attack Andrei's fingertips. And throughout the course of this match, we're just going to see Devon take more and more control, and it's going to be through the hand. So when we see someone defeat Devon Larratt over the last probably 2 or so years, if I remember correctly, I think the only people who have ever defeated Devon throughout that time span are people who defeated him by pulling without their wrist. The idea that you're going to take hand control from Devon in 2024 is almost impossible. And so the way that we see people beating Devon is by having either a flop press or some sort of move where they can do a top roll without their wrist. And then probably they're going to transition to a flop press or something of that nature. A perfect example would be Gennady Kvigvenya was able to do this against Devon. He had multiple moves that he could use, but he always had that flop press, and he was able to isolate Devon's bicep by using that and crashed on him and avoid needing to have his cup in order to access his power. Andrei, on the other hand, is someone who you can see that as soon as he loses his cup, he just has nowhere near the same amount of power. He just isn't comfortable pulling without his wrist. You can tell this is not something he's practiced, and Devon's talking to him immediately. And this is because Andrei's power is just hugely decreased when he doesn't have access to his wrist flexion. And this is pretty much what happens throughout the rest of this match. So, moving on to Oleg Petrenko, we're going to go through these rounds here, and then we're going to look at John versus Oleg Petrenko at East versus West. Now, this is about a year ago. I think that Oleg has made huge progress over this last year, but I don't think that it's enough progress to get to the level I think he would need to be in order to defeat Devon. So right off the go, what we see is pretty much the exact same vector. This looks almost like the same match as Devon versus Andrei, where we see Oleg initiating with down pressure. Immediately, the height of his knuckles, the height is dropping. And he's doing that on purpose. He's not being forced there, but he wants to go down. He wants to go down toward the pin pad. whereas John is posting not straight up, but somewhere in this direction, up and back. And so what this means is that Oleg is holding on to John Brzenk, and John Brzenk is the one not holding on, and he's accessing those fingertips. He's putting all of his back pressure into Oleg's fingertips. And as soon as Oleg loses that wrist control, he just doesn't have near as much power as he did before. And you can see his wrist back there. So to me, if Oleg 1 year ago was unable to contain John Brzenk, if he was unable to hold on to John Brzenk, I find it very unlikely, even after all the progress that he's made, he's going to be able to not only contain Devon here in the center, but that he would be able to contain him enough to go through his king's move as well over 4 rounds. Because I believe that this match is going to be a 7-round format because it is a title shot. So I find that to be very unlikely. So then it's going to be, does Oleg have the ability to finish the match with a flop press or a flop roll? And what we're going to see later in this match with Oleg versus John is that even once he starts going into some sort of a flop press move later on in the match, and I think it happens in round 2 and 3, we're going to see that he loses a ton of his power, very similarly to Andrei Pushkar. So this time he goes a little bit more out the back, but he still loses wrist control. And at some point, he's either going to foul here or he's going to transition. So it looks like it's the next rounds. Here we go. So he hits out the back. And this is probably what you would do against Devon. You would go out the back knowing you're going to lose the wrist. You would try to go high, get out onto the fingertips. Both opponents would lose their wrist. And then you would transition to a flop. But right here, this is everything that you want as a flop presser. So if you are Kamil Jablonski, if you're Gennady Kvigvenya in this position, I think you're easily going to finish Devon Larratt. But we can see in this match with Oleg versus John, to me, he gets the position that he needs. If you have a really good flop press, I think you should finish from there. He's isolated John's bicep pretty effectively, and you can see John talking to him. So what it looks like to me is that he just has nowhere near the same amount of power once he loses his wrist. He's just not really comfortable at pulling at this angle. Even John with a really open position, and John doesn't have a king's move. He's still just sitting here holding him on his bicep. And it looks like, if anything, Oleg is the one that's gassing quicker. And eventually we're going to see John come around and press. So to me, Oleg very likely does not have the ability to keep his wrist against Devon. And then once he loses the wrist, I don't think he has the ability to finish. You can see the same thing in round 3. He's way out. He has totally isolated John's bicep. This is a fantastic position for a flop presser. If you're Jerry Kadaret, Kamil Jablonski, Gennady Kvigvenya, I think this is an easy day for you to finish this match at this point. But Oleg just doesn't quite have access to that broke back wrist move. It just looks like he's losing so much of his power. So because of all these reasons, I think that Devon is probably going to take this one. He's also the much bigger human being, and he's cutting more weight to get to this 105 weight class. So let me know what you guys think about all this, but I do think that because of those two reasons, just stylistically, I think Devon is going to take the wrist because of the way that Oleg applies down pressure off the go of the match. And after that, I don't think that Oleg is going to have the ability to finish the match in a flop press based off of the history.